The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to our webinar on the new Geoscape Intelligence System, also known as GIS. My name is Joseph Patterson, Marketing Specialist here at Geoscape, and I'm excited to be your host for today's presentation. Before I introduce our fantastic speakers, I want to make sure you know how to get the most out of your experience today. We are recording and we'll make sure everyone is emailed a link so you can refer back to the content at your convenience. Now on your screen, you'll see a few options to help you participate in this webinar, like the control panel that allowed you to choose your audio when logging in. You should be able to change it at any point by selecting your preferred option from the available drop-down menu. You'll also notice a handout section on your personal control panel. This is where we provide additional complimentary content. Feel free to download and save these at any point during today's presentation. And lastly is the questions box. This is how you can actively participate with us. We welcome and encourage questions you have to be submitted through there. We always do our best to answer as many questions as we can, but if we don't get to yours, we will follow up within the next few business days. So without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce our speakers for today. On your left, you have David Mesis. He's VP of Business Development here at Geoscape. And on the right, we have Ron Cohen. He's VP of Products and Analytics at Geoscape. I'm going to turn the floor over to David at this time. Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you, Joseph. And thank you, everyone, for investing the time to connect today and listen in on this webinar. Today, we're going to cover a few different items. Geoscape, for those not familiar with us, we're a company that offers a full range of total market and intelligence and solutions. And today we're going to cover, we're going to show you how to find your next best customer, how to be smart about knowing your best customers and identifying prospective customers out there. We're going to show you how to leverage multicultural consumer insights with some of our cultural data, like Hispanicity and Asianicity, to really get a full 360 view of your consumers and your prospective customers, really understanding consumer purchasing, media, and lifestyle behaviors, going beyond your basic demographics and spending data, and really showing you more of how these consumers interact with your brands and other activities that you can leverage. And, you know, the big topics in the industry is really understanding Millennials and Gen Zs and capitalizing on these consumers, but also segments that weave through those particular segments like Hispanics, Asians, African Americans, and other consumer groups like LGBT. Now, I'd like to spend a few minutes really bringing you up to speed on the changing face of America and really the changing face of consumer spending out there, and where your companies need to position themselves to really gain market share. Here's a snapshot of what the U.S. looks like from a population standpoint as of 2017, with the majority of the population being non-Hispanic white, but a larger share continuously growing, the 37% of the multicultural consumers. A group like the Hispanic population has nearly tripled since 1990, while the larger group, the non-Hispanic whites, have grown less than 5%. So although they make up a larger portion of perhaps the spending, as far as growth potential, there's certain segments you need to be paying more attention to. And here you see those proportions broken out over 1990, 2000, 2010, 2017, and then jump forward 4 years from now, what that's going to look like. Now, you know, you just saw what the population breakout is, but when you look at the segmentation of where the growth is coming from, 95% of the growth since 1990 has come from Hispanic, Asians, and non-Hispanic blacks. That's 95%. And if you see, over the last 7 years as well, that trend has continued, and we're projecting that trend to continue into the near future. Hispanics are driving nearly 61% of the population growth. So you'll see many companies focusing their efforts on understanding this group because they're driving a larger portion of it, and they're also the largest portion of that multicultural group overall. If you look at the 17-year period from 2000, which I still can't believe it's been 17 years, it seems like just yesterday. But since that time, 45 million new individuals have been added, quote unquote, in the multicultural group. The three groups you see on the side on the left there. You'll see the growth within those groups. Hispanics and Asians have nearly doubled in size during that time. And if you go all the way to the right, again, you'll see the proportion of the growth. Now, it's great to know where we've been and where we are, but it's always important to know where you're going. And the multicultural boom will continue. And you'll see that, in the next year, 1.7 million new Hispanics, nearly 400,000 non-Hispanic Blacks, and about 500,000 non-Hispanic Asians and Pacific Islanders, which equates to the numbers you see there. I'm not going to read them all, but at the end of this presentation, you'll have 199 new Hispanics, 46 Blacks, and 60 Asians, and that number will continue to on into the next 4 years at the very minimum. This is what the population will look like in 2022, so 4 years from now. And a larger proportion of the 75 plus and the boomers will tend to be non-Hispanic white as you get into the X, but more specifically, the famous groups, the Millennials, and then ultimately the Gen Zs. A larger proportion, nearly 50% of Millennials are multicultural. So when you're talking millennial, when you hear millennial here, millennial there, you really should be also considering what are the multicultural components of these groups. And does behavior vary? Does media consumption, spending patterns actually vary by ethnicity when you have folks of almost the same age and income? Those types of things you'd be able to dig deeper into. Been reading a lot about fertility rates and how the U.S. is having, lower population growth in some cases. But if you look at where the growth is coming from in the 0 to 4, so all the babies and toddlers, nearly 60% is made up of that, of multicultural. So the younger you go, the more important it becomes. Income-wise, here you see a snapshot of median incomes. Overall, Asians with a much higher median income and higher educations in many cases. But if you look at an interesting stat that we have here, one is the median age. Hispanics, Asians, Hispanics and Blacks tend to be younger overall. And if you look at the median adult age, 37 and 43 with Black, life expectancy nearly the same between Hispanics, whites, and slightly longer with Asian, and slightly shorter life expectancy with Black. But if you take the span of years left in a household, all the way on the right, and you look at their spending today, if you take a snapshot of a household, an Asian household today, or Hispanic or a non-Hispanic white household today, and you live them out through the span of years left in that household and the spending years left, you'll see that the household value, the cumulative life spending value of a household, an Asian household, is 2.6 million, nearly $1 million more than a non-Hispanic white throughout that lifetime. And Hispanics, although you saw earlier with a lower median income, since they're younger, have a lot more life left, will also spend throughout those years. So these slides will be shared at the end. So if you want to take notes, but also we'll be sharing these slides. And we'll stop here for a quick poll question.
All right. So the first poll question asks, are you currently marketing to multicultural audiences? Select yes, no, or I don't know. So 87% 87% of you currently are marketing to multicultural audiences. That's very interesting.
And I expect that number to continue to go up, and that's been higher, over the years that we've been doing these webinars. So it's interesting to see that number grow. What I want to show now is a little bit about what's new with Geoscape. We're now part of the Claritas family, and also wanted to share some of the new offerings that really will help us address the growth question that we're looking to address today. And one interesting add to our arsenal here of products, or our suite of products, is behavior-based consumer insights that gives us a more full view of the consumer beyond multicultural, more of a total market view, where we're able to not just understand demographics, spending, but also behaviors. Where are they shopping? What financial services products do they have? The media that they're consuming, technology they use and leverage, the types of websites they're visiting, and other health related information that will impact different industries, from financial, retail, telecommunications. So being able to cross all this rich research, behavior, demographic, and multicultural data in an easy to use platform. And one major addition is the ability to segment using PRIZM segmentation, being able to use the PRIZM as a lens to see our best customers and find more like them. And so PRIZM, to give a quick explanation, segments all U.S. households into one of 68 segments, broken out from left to right based on life stage, younger years to mature years, and from top to bottom in affluence. And so this will help you understand which of your current customers over-index as, I'll pick the top left one, young digeratis, and then ultimately be able to find out more about these customers. For example, if we look at the cosmopolitans and the big fish small ponds, two different segments, segment 21 and 9, you'll be able to see beyond just age, demographics, home ownership, income, and net worth. You'll be able to look at what they like to listen to, if they use Yelp or watch Fox Business and follow PGA, LPGA, and really start to understand how to connect with these best customers one-to-one. Now, imagine that combined with what Geoscape is known for is our multicultural market intelligence, and really leveraging PRIZM with the overlays of Hispanicity and Asianicity, which we'll see in a second, and being able to segment your best customers by PRIZM, and ultimately your best Hispanic customers by PRIZM and Hispanicity, and really connect the dots with those Hispanic customers. Or Asianicity, as we saw, their spend, their income is higher, and also understanding how does an A1, A2, more English preferred Asian Indian or Asian Chinese consume media compared to a less acculturated, or are they over or under indexing with a certain cell phone provider or certain financial services products? You'll be able to quickly identify that. And this is a visual that helps you better visualize how these segments combine, being able to connect PRIZM segments with the cultural and have a better view of demographics, spending, preferred stores, and then mobile activity and mobile shopping activity. Now, ultimately, having all this intelligence is great, but the best part is being able to activate and being able to take this intelligence, take these segments, and connect with these audiences online or through traditional means. And so PRIZM gives you the lens and the communication language, if you will, to segment and connect with these folks across any of our partners that you see here on the screen, digital partners, as well as traditional TV and radio partners out there. And I'll show some examples today in the case study of how some clients are currently leveraging that. Now, all of this intelligence is packed into an online platform, which some of you may have seen in the past. It's the Geoscape Intelligence System. And it just makes it easy to combine all these different data sets, whether it's demographics, cultural, retail trade analytics, really helping you take what would traditionally be multiple tools, multiple data sets, multiple vendors, and being able to leverage this inside of a platform. And we've added different capabilities. This is just one now, where you can better plot your stores, your competitive stores, and some of our financial spending data. So before we jump into the actual case study, I will open up again to a brief poll question.
Right.
Joseph?
So the second poll question here, are you currently using any kind of segmentation system to identify your targets? Yes, no, or I don't know. All right. Seems like the majority of you are using a segmentation system. Very interesting.
Okay, so we are going to show you a business case, business example, where we have a client that has leveraged most of what you're seeing today in a full solution. Really, it's a telecommunications, teleweb media company. As we see more and more of these telecommunications companies are becoming media companies, cables, satellite, wireless, all in one. And it's a highly competitive environment. It's dynamic, constantly changing, a lot of churn. And this particular client has a need to understand which consumers represent growth and which ones also represent potential churn issues that they can address beforehand. And ultimately, they're trying to gain actionable insights to optimize sales and marketing, service and retention strategies. And so what they're looking at us to do is really help them better segment the customers they have today. Your first-party data really gives you a ton of insights into where you could be going next and where the fastest way to win is. And so what we propose a solution is to take that first-party data, enrich it with additional attributes from PRIZM to age, demographics, cultural, and other household data points to help us better understand which of these segments are rising to the top as over-indexing for our products and services. We also looked at the retailer sites to really understand what stores are best positioned to capitalize on these particular segments that we identified. And ultimately, they wanted us to extract a list of potential audiences we can reach both offline and online with a multi-channel approach. All right. The idea is, as always, is to increase market share, increase sales, but ultimately, especially in this industry, to gain greater lifetime customer value, to retain them and keep them longer with us versus their competitors. And what you're seeing here today, the examples I'll show today can apply to other industries that have first-party data, customer data, and or a retail presence, whether it's actual retail stores or sales agents, brokers, life insurance agents, real estate agents. I mean, if you have some kind of physical presence, you'll see the examples today you can relate to for your particular industry. And the first part is to really take a customer file, names and addresses, and process it. And there's multiple ways of doing this. One is you can do it on the online platform that we have, which is what I'm going to show you here, or you can do it offline where your data stays on your servers in your data center and isn't really exposed to a third party. But what you could do is take that data set and begin to select the fields you want to append. Ethnicity, acculturation, PRIZM, the age of the individual, other parameters like number of children. In this case, we really wanted to understand culturally as well as economically, but also since it's telecommunications products, you want to know the family composition. You want to know number of kids and number of potential cell phones or digital subscribers you can have, cable subscribers. So those items are of importance. If it's a different industry, perhaps you're more interested in net worth, income producing assets. So depending on what your particular industry is, the indicators you append to analyze may be different. Now, from here on, I'm going to show you most of this live. So you'll see what comes, once we enrich a database, you'll have John Smith, 101 Main Street, PRIZM segment 3, Anglo, affluent, making over 150,000, whatever the parameters are, you'd add additional elements to your database that you'd be able to further segment. But in addition to that, we provide an interactive HTML report that gives you more insights into your database, where you might index with, this particular company was over-indexing with African Americans. And what we do is we compare your database, in this case, the client's database, to the client's footprint, the block groups where these customers are coming from, to see, are we getting our fair share? Are we over, underrepresented with one group or the other? It's not enough to know you have X amount of African Americans or X amount of Asians or X amount of affluent individuals without knowing what the base is. What are you comparing to? Is 100,000 good, or is it terrible compared to what's actually out there? And without knowing the base, it's hard to make those types of conclusions. And I'll just run through a few here, just to give you an example. This particular client is under indexing with Hispanics at an 89. They're doing very well with Black, and they could do better with other groups, as you see here. Now, let me just come back to the top. One interesting stat that we saw was number of children. So we saw that households with larger number of children are among the most attractive targets. And they also tend to over-index in this particular client's database, where if you have more children, or at least 2 or more, you're more likely to be a customer of our client, which makes sense. If you're selling TV subscriptions, cell phones, and the such, you want to be in households where there's more kids, and more, the entertainment value as well. With more kids, you definitely have to have a TV, and I can attest to that. I would be part of the 2 children category there. And as you see, the index 110, 118, and with 4 or more children, this particular client does amazingly well. We also saw, I'll just come back up to the top here, with acculturation. There's different, they're doing very well with the 1s and the 3s, so the bicultural and the most English speaking, the most like your total market consumer, but opportunity for growth with the 4s and 5s. All right, so this report comes with the output that helps you better extract the insights, because there's one thing to get a coded file and have an analyst go through it, and which you could also do, but this already comes out with the insights you need. And so you can look at where this particular client is not doing that well with the millennials, so 18 to 34 more or less, plus or minus 1 or 2 years, you see that they're not doing well there. And we also saw an opportunity with Hispanics. So what we recommended was that they go after Latino millennial mothers specifically. They will have more kids. They're part of a prominent group like millennials, and also part of the fast-growing Latino group, and will also tend to be a strong influencer or the decision maker in most cases in my household. On these types of purchases too. All right, the wireless, the cell phone, and the TV. All right, so we recommended that, and what I'm going to do now is take you into the platform. It's sort of a live demo, but I'll try to keep it as interactive as possible. So what we're doing here is going into the MDX, and I want to look at. I had it open for too long. I apologize there. So what I want to look at is I want to rank my markets by the top DMAs, not just by millennial, but also by Hispanic millennial, but most importantly by the Latino millennial mothers. All right, so once this comes up, I'll start showing you some of the indicators we can pull into, and come here to age. We go into generational cohorts, and we'll pick both the Hispanic Gen Y, also known as millennials, and we'll also look at some of our target audiences from HomeBase, where we have the Latino millennial mothers, or Latina millennial mothers. We'll submit this. The system will generate a report of the top markets. And if you look at the top market, now, if you look at the top markets, you'll see markets like New York rise to the top. But you'll also see markets like LA. Let me just resort this here. So you have New York, you have LA, 4.5. But if you look at Hispanic millennials, what this client is specifically looking for, you have 2.4. So there are almost 1 million more Hispanic millennials in LA, even though at first glance, New York would seem like a better option for millennials overall. And if you look at the millennial Latina mothers, these are actual audiences of millennial mothers that we can reach offline today and ultimately online digitally. So in LA, we have identified 47, almost 48,000 millennial Latina mothers households. So there's more people in those households, but these are the number of households where we've identified. And so what I recommended, or what we recommended, is going into LA. And I actually do have an example here saved, and I'll show you that example. Let's see here, Millennial Latina. And what it's going to bring up is LA with the particular Latina millennial mothers target distributed across all the different zip codes. You know, I can run this report and extract the top zip codes, which we did do for the client. And you can start to see where that distribution is. If you wanted to do any localized geographic-based targeting, you can extract all these zip codes into a report and better reach these individuals. This client was not only interested in the distribution of the zip codes here, but more importantly, where they had a right to win locally. You know, so they do all this analysis up front to really understand, hey, does LA make sense? What are the top zip codes? But ultimately, they have us go into their store footprint. So if we look here, we can load your stores, we can load insurance agents' offices, or grocery stores, whatever the target is. In this case, these are retail stores for a particular telecommunications company, and you see their distribution. These are just a few of their stores. What you're looking at here is the same Latino millennial mothers by zip code. Their stores with a 2-mile radius. You can adjust that to be radius or drive time. And then you know that in blue you have Nueva Latinas, which are HA2s, second generation Hispanics. I'm a self-classified HA2 myself, English speaking. More likely going to walk into a store to speak to someone in English. As you get into the 3s, which are 3 out of the 4 stores here, you're more bicultural, more bilingual, more likely to be able to, depending on the person, choose between preferring to buy in English or Spanish. So knowing that these stores are more bicultural, bilingual, this particular client made sure to staff those stores appropriately, but also the in-store signage, and then the offers they were presenting were localized to those particular stores. All right, and we can run reports and actually find out how many are within these 2 miles and rank these stores. Imagine a footprint of 10,000 or 20,000 stores. How do you do this in an efficient, practical way? This platform actually allows you to do that. One of the features that Ron really wants me to showcase, because our tech team actually spent quite a bit of time really optimizing this for the summer release. But you see here, I can bring in a particular company like T-Mobile, and map them, and you'll see all these competitors are in here, all these other businesses, points of interest, schools, parking lots, they're all in here. So you can bring them in, and you'll see the system will, when you're zoomed out enough, it'll start to cluster some of these stores, both direct and indirect resellers, and you'll see them distributed across town and with respect to this competitor. Now, with this client, you can also plot your customer points. So we could have easily taken those millennial Latino mothers that we did identify in this customer's database and plotted them here to see where they're coming with respect to the neighborhoods that we've identified here and our stores. So this is something that perhaps takes you weeks or days to do, with something we can do pretty quickly once you have the actual store files. Before I build the audience, what we also like to look at is the behavioral data. So yes, the LA looks great. It's a good market in terms of number of people, in terms of the distribution of our stores. But are millennial Latina mothers in this market actually using our services? Are they more likely to use our competitor services? So how do you address that right now today? And what we've done is we've overlaid some behavioral data, survey-based data, with our cultural fields, our culture codes, our PRIZM segmentation as well. So if you identify certain PRIZM segments to be of interest or to be your best customers, we can use that to understand their behavior. And what I'm going to do is just a simple report. We can look at media, we can look at a ton of things, but what I want to look at is their product usage. And we'll go here to telephone. And you can spend all day here, as you can imagine. There's quite a bit of information. But we'll look at, we even have, they plan to switch in the next 12 months, so that's the question we could address with the churning. But more importantly, are they using one of the big ones? So let's just get these four. And in the background, I want to make sure that I filter by age and gender, since we did say mothers, and household, number of children in household. So this is something we're doing here on the fly. There's no smoke and mirrors here. And then I'm going to pick the age of, we'll include the 18-year-olds there, even though they're technically not millennials. Let's see, this one, any. Oh, I apologize. So there, I did it on the fly, and I kind of clicked the wrong thing, but there we go. So we have women, Hispanic filtering, number of the carrier, have children, and our millennials. All right, how's that for a mouthful? We'll generate this report.
Oh, you have to be a little more careful. You said no children.
Age. Okay, and let's free run this here. It's not pulling. So what I'm going to do is, since it's not cooperating, I'm going to show you what that looks like. Have no fear, I have it actually ready here. And this is what it actually looks like. And actually, you're going to get an example of these slides with some of the screenshots of the different examples. So I know if you were taking screenshots, it's great, but you're going to see a lot of the maps that I showed today. Now, in this particular report, you'll see the ages. I used 21 to 34, the number of children 17 and under, and gender women, while filtering for the Hispanicity up top, you'll see the number of weighted respondents and over/under indexing. So let me read this to you in case it's too small. Hispanic millennial mothers, HA1, under index 83 for having AT&T, Sprint, and slightly under index for T-Mobile. They're basically at par. They're more likely to have Verizon or even none of these. So there's other brands that I left out. If you look at AT&T does slightly better with or a lot better with the HA2s, while Sprint is not doing so well with 66, and T-Mobile and Verizon also doing well. So you can see how you can quickly identify in LA specifically where the Hispanic millennial mothers tend to have their cell phone agreement hanging. Now, there's other components we can add to this, income or any other fields to help us better segment this, whether it's, like I said, income or other spending, or if they shop at a retail partner, like a Best Buy or a Walmart, we can overlay that. The same that you see here with wireless, we can also do for financial services, for other retail, QSR, and other CPG categories. Okay, so once we're in retail target, we can actually take, from here, we can actually get a list from our HomeBase database. HomeBase, for those not familiar, HomeBase is a consumer audience database. It has the names and addresses of 120 million households. Within those households, we have coded them by PRIZM, by ethnicity, socioeconomic status, income, number of vehicles, the type of the brand of the vehicle and model of the vehicle. I mean, we can get very specific. In addition to some of the economics like net worth and income producing assets. So we can use HomeBase to build an audience offline, traditionally used for direct mailing. But online, once we build that audience, we can actually target these folks online. So if we take it to HomeBase here, HomeBase will allow us to create an audience. HomeBase will look at something like this, where we'll be able to come in and build an audience of either select one of our pre-built audiences like millennial Latina mothers or families with teens, empty nesters, overlay additional demographic and psychographic filters, and extract an actual database of names, addresses, zip codes that you can use for one component, direct mail. We also have emails. But what we've also designed is a way to reach these folks online, one-to-one. So we can actually connect, use an address database and match their physical address to their IP address. Filter out the households we want to reach and ultimately serve them ads. So whenever these folks go online through their home network, whether they're using a tablet or TV or a computer, they would be shown an ad similar to cookie-based targeting. But in this case, we've already defined our audience to be millennial Latina mothers that are bicultural, bilingual, that live within 2 miles of client ABC. Now, if we have the physical address, the IP address, we can also detect the mobile device IDs, which would allow us to also serve ads whenever these individuals are browsing. So if you're a financial services company, you can actually serve ads to folks that have a high net worth, fit your target, and you only want your ad to be seen by these individuals. No over serving of ads to folks that just happen to land on a website that you're buying ads on. Now, as being part of the Claritas family, our data is everywhere you want to be. From the 4Infos, Facebooks, the Twitters of the world, you'd be able to leverage our segments to serve ads across any one of these platforms. And we've all seen websites before, and the ads come out the same way any other ad comes out in these ad networks. You can control it and then control the audiences, or we can we can use our platforms to help you serve ads to these individuals. And the neat thing about it is the reporting ties back into the segments. So you can have multiple segments. This is the Latino Millennials. You can do multiple segments within Latinos or across total market and see the performance of those segments and those particular creatives. Because if you're switching out creatives by segment, you can actually see under overperforming segments. So lastly, recap, it's really about first-party data. First-party data first. I think that's where you should always start. If you are capturing names and addresses or just emails and names, there's ways to append additional elements, data elements, to give color to your customers and help you better profile them, so that you know which ones are likely to churn, which ones are likely to grow. And instead of jumping in and going after the next shiny object because everyone's talking about this customer, actually figure out, is millennial a good option for me? And is it all millennials, or is it the ones that actually already have kids, don't live in their parents' basement, or have home ownership, which comes with its own responsibilities and its own spending, and being able to segment within that, and not assuming that all behave a certain way or shop a certain way in each market. So the next thing is you win at the local level. You want to maximize your probability of success by focusing on your best positioned stores. You want to laser focus your approach. Obviously, you can go national with some initiatives, but when you go local, it's not just about hitting the whole market. It's about knowing within the market what stores are best. Because even within a market like Miami or LA, there's differences from one trade area to the next. Can you leverage that local presence you have? Since everyone's talking about is retail presence still important? Since you have it there, you want to make sure you maximize where you have the right to win, and you're going to win at the local level. And ultimately, it's about one-to-one multi-channel engagement. It's being able to connect with that same person offline through the traditional direct mail, which I still appreciate, and I like to consider myself young, but I also, would like to be reached via email and online, and that multi-touch and TV and radio, Pandora, Sirius, whatever radio, and ultimately trying to reach those same audiences across different platforms. So, for those that stayed on and attended, we'd like to offer a free test drive of our GIS, a complimentary trial. If you can contact us by Friday of August 30th or sooner, while it's still fresh in your mind, we'd give you a free test drive of the platform. We'd set it up for you based on your company so that you can get the most use out of it. And if you're an existing client, there's certain data sets you may have seen today that you may want to investigate. We'd be happy to grant you a temporary access so you can leverage that. We're going to open it up now to questions. I know some folks don't like to raise their hands or ask a question now, or they're still thinking about it, or they need to huddle with their teams. But if there's something you saw today and perhaps you want to reach out later, you can always find me on LinkedIn, Ron or I, and our contact information will be provided later. So we'll open up now to the questions that were posted. Joseph?
Yeah, so we're going to take some time for questions now. If you have any questions, just feel free to type it into the questions box on your control panel at any time. We'll give you a few minutes. Okay. All right. It seems like we don't have any questions at this moment. As I mentioned at the top of the hour, we really appreciate all of you joining us for today's webinar. We hope you've learned a ton of new information, and we are excited to speak with you in the next couple of days. Remember, if you have any additional questions, a representative is going to be your best resource for answers. But if you asked a question in the questions box today, we will be able to answer it in a follow-up. So in the meantime, I want to invite you to check out our website, geoscape.com. We recently updated our branding, and we think you'll be pleased with the fresh look as well. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and talk soon.
Thank you all. Make it a productive day. Bye now.